Namaskar friends. Today we have a special guest from NIMHANS and he is Dr. Vivek Banegal, who is psychiatrist by profession but an active researcher of arts and mental development. So let me introduce Dr. Vivek Banegal to you. Dr. Vivek Banegal,
Namaskar.
Welcome to our studio.
Thank you very much for it.
I have read in your research materials, you are using a term arts as developer of brain. I would like you to elaborate more on that part so that our teachers and parents can understand how arts can help in the mind development.
This is actually arts has been there as long as human beings have been there. But now people are looking very seriously at how arts can be used in the training of children, not in the way that it used to be used earlier, not in the way that there is an arts period, not in the way that like a Stepney tire at the back of a car, brought on only when there is a need.
Period, yes.
What we are now learning is that arts can be a wonderful tonic which tunes the rest of the brain, so that the rest of the brain is able then to do mathematics better, is able to do reading better, is able to do logical tasks better, is able to do creative exercises better. What we are now learning is that using arts, we can actually get better engineers and doctors.
Very true.
Not necessarily better filmmakers and better poets,
a better painter or better
painters.
Dancer.
So arts education does not necessarily mean that the child has to be geared to finally become a painter or a poet. Arts education also means that children can be the best they can in whatever area their skills lie or whatever they want to go. And so that is the evidence that is slowly developing and what we need to use, which is what we hope to talk about today in slightly greater detail. That arts education is like a brain tonic. It stimulates multiple areas of the brain, and in so doing what it really does is it gets different areas of the brain to talk to each other better, so that children can then use this for other parts of their life.
Learning also,
For example, what we now know is that teaching children music activates the areas of the brain which are responsible for empathy, social, and understanding and social behaviors. Teaching children dance or even getting children to look at dancers activates the areas of the brain which are used for logic and mathematics. So teaching children dance may be a very good way of teaching children who are bad at mathematics to exercise those areas, which will get them to learn mathematics better. So this cross fertilization that occurs in the brain can be done very beautifully by arts education. That can be, it can be the visual arts, it can be the plastic arts, it can be performing arts, any of it. We still really don't know whether the one is better than the other. And honestly, I really don't care.
They overlap also.
They overlap.
Like you talk of drama, you will see that almost every art form is integrated in that.
Absolutely.
So similarly with the visual arts, when somebody is drawing or somebody is painting, whatever is at the back of mind is what the child has seen, and what they see other people performing, what they have listened, what they visualize, it comes from an integrated source. And then they can express it better.
The other thing that we are learning now is, although 15-20 years back we used to believe that brain development stopped in childhood, we now know that brain development has not stopped in childhood. The brain keeps developing almost till the time it is 25 or 35. So when a child in say in elementary school or slightly older child is working in a class, etc., his brain or her brain is let me use the analogy of a car. A car has a powerful engine, and the powerful engine in our brain is a particular part of the brain which is responsible for giving emotional value. We call it the amygdala.
Amygdala.
Amygdala. The name is not important, but what it does is it gives emotional value. I want it. Now, unfortunately, for human beings, you can't just go ahead and do it. You have to think about whether you should do it, whether you will get hurt if you do it, etc.
Yeah.
So, as a part of evolution, other parts of the brain have developed which are like a brake. You know, if that is the engine, there are brakes
There is a
which
brake.
say stop, think, and then do, which is very important for children to learn.
I think that is what we want them to learn in schools,
Right.
you know, the right kind of desirable
Not only
behavior.
that,
And
children also need to learn that, okay, now I have to sit and do my homework, and only then I can go and watch TV. You know, but in children it is difficult to do because the brakes of the brain are not functioning very well. They are not mature yet. The second part of the brain which seems not to be as mature in children is what we call, you know, technically it's called the anterior cingulate gyrus, but what it is basically the gears of the brain.
Yeah.
Okay, it shifts from one gear to another. That, you know, if I need to be going on a slope, I go on first gear. If I need to go on plain ground, I need to use you know, higher gear. Basically, it helps children learn from mistakes, or it helps children detect error. Children are not very good at doing that. They make a mistake and they keep on making the same mistake, or they use the same solution over and over again. Children need to know how to learn from mistakes.
And I think that is where arts
And that is
do
where
come
arts seem to be very effective,
beautifully,
because
yeah.
now we are able to actually see children responding to arts and these areas of the brain being given a workout. It's almost like a gym, you know, only in this you are not developing muscles, you are
With brain.
exercising parts of the brain which are very, very important for the day-to-day functioning of the children, emotional functioning of the children, moral functioning of the children, as well as, you know, intellectual functioning of the children.
Ji.
So, to come back to the question that you asked, arts education seems to be a very good general tonic for the brain. It reaches where all the other subjects do not reach.
I think today you have shared with us something which every parent and more than parents, teachers need to understand, because somehow one myth that is only the childhood when children develop their brain, and after a certain period it stops, as you rightly mentioned in the beginning. But today you have told that it's not so. It keeps on developing up to the age of, like actively developing up to the age of 35 or so. Or maybe some researchers will really lighten up the areas that even later part also development is happening. So, one is this particular information and knowledge I think our teachers and parents will use. Another is that arts is not just gearing up the learning, rather it develops the brain, sort of preparing like creating that ready ground for the new learning.
In fact, it prepares a very nice stage for you to dance on.
Okay, that's maybe
You can't
the best
dance
way
without
to,
a stage, exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
The other thing that arts seem to be doing, see, for a long time people have used arts as therapeutics for people with different kind of illnesses,
Yeah.
you know, especially with mental illnesses. But it's only now that we are realizing that arts is very useful, because unlike as it was believed, as we were saying earlier, that development doesn't stop, or if you have a problem, that is not the end of it.
Yep.
The brain is plastic, and so it can be modulated even after, say, even after a stroke, you can teach other areas of the brain to take over. You know?
That is where they are using it as therapy.
That is where,
in the
but it is it is also useful knowledge in our training of children,
Yeah.
because children with problems, you can use art education,
Yes.
specific art methods to deal with children with problems, children with depression, children with illnesses like
problems, yeah.
absolutely emotional problems, problems with behavior.
Yeah.
These are children where arts education is very useful.
Yeah.
One of the things that is used, I mean, is or is supposed to be useful, is that when a child has to draw or paint or create something with his hands, then the child has to learn to focus, to be in the moment.
Yes.
You know, people have called it various things of being in the zone. You know, or you know, Zen Buddhism talks about being the brush when you are painting.
Yeah, spiritually they say that you are one with the material.
You are one with the material.
Because if you are dancing, you are just one with the God, and then you are singing, again you are one with the God you are talking to, and you are expressing through your soul. Same with the art material, visual art material, we say you are one with the material itself.
Yeah. But it is so difficult to learn meditation. It's not very difficult to learn art, especially for children.
Yeah. It's so natural to them.
And it is so therapeutic for children with difficulties.
Yeah, and especially I think for our classrooms where we are having now inclusive classroom, where children who are differently abled, they are also with the normal kids. So, and they have different kind of intelligence. So, I think as you are saying, then art caters to the need of every child.
Right. So, in a way what it does is that it provides challenges for students at all levels, and it equalizes the challenges for the students. It provides a level playing field for students. So, even students who are not doing well in mathematics can have their self-esteem issues taken over because they are able to create.
Yeah, and then they will learn mathematics better once they are settled, once they are comfortable in the class, they are interacting with others, listening to the teacher.
Plus there are other things, I mean, which we are now learning. Is, for example, when somebody is doing sculpture, when you are
working with the clay,
or you are doing carpentry,
yeah,
the hands have the largest representation
of the brain
on the map of the brain. So, using the hands gives the brain such a great massage and stimulation that it is useful, using the hands is useful for depression. So, children who are depressed, children who come from you know, lower socioeconomic groups, art has been used as an aid to help them. To
provide that equality and equity kind of, yeah.
It helps the brain.
It helps the brain, yeah.
So, I think the message that one can now begin to start giving out is that arts education is not something extra, it is not an extra period. It should be an integral part of any educational initiative.
Doctor, you think that integration of arts at primary level is more important or is as important as at any other level? Like we think that at primary level we should be giving more and more art activities, and as we go further we think that now children are learning better, so they may not need arts in that similar fashion. What is your observation?
I would say that that is not really true. What science tells us that is not true. I mean, that is also linked to the fact of the way we have seen art as something that children can do. When the pressure of subjects builds up, then we can forget about art. What the latest science teaches us, what the understanding of the neurobiology of the brain teaches us, is that that is not true. Adolescents probably need art education more than children. In fact, I mean, nothing to do with what we are talking about, but arts education is used with people with Alzheimer's dementia, older people, even without Alzheimer's dementia, to delay forgetfulness. So, arts education does not have an age limit. It does not come with a sell-by date. So, that myth I think we need to put at rest, that older children do not need it. In fact, there is this whole new science of brain-based learning, where now people are starting to use the understanding of the development of the brain and how the brain learns in devising techniques and strategies for learning for children, where things like using movement or using sounds paired with learning increases learning. You know, where using role play in a drama form enhances learning of geography or history. So, these are techniques which are now being tried out and are now being found to be very useful. So, as you can see, it is the use of the arts not as art itself,
not as subject itself,
as a subject itself,
but as a pedagogy.
As a pedagogy.
Yeah. There's another question I have in my mind. After seeing some of the images which of the brain, different part, and with the colorful artwork you have, how do you show this development when the children are involved in the activities and certain kind of development is really visible through those images? Maybe it would be great if you can show some of the images to the viewers.
I think what we do is that now there are very good techniques of taking images of the brain at work. For example, you have heard of the magnetic resonance imaging, MRI, which is used when people have strokes and tumors. But now you have things which is called functional magnetic resonance imaging, which allows you to see the activity in the brain when the brain or the person is reacting to different things.
Without taking children to that person to the machines.
No, we have to put a person in a scanner and do it. It can't be done sitting here. But it's also a good way of finding out what happens when a child listens to a bar of music. Exactly which parts of the brain are lighting up, exactly which parts of the brain are talking to each other.
That would be very interesting if we have the images
and we'll show you some of the things. For example, one of the things that I wanted to show you is, of course, this is work done elsewhere, but for example, these are some of the areas of the brain which are activated when children watch dances, watching dances. But they overlap strikingly with those the same areas are also active during mathematical reasoning.
So it has a connection.
So it amplifies. So watching dances or dancing amplifies the learning that supports, say, social intelligence, which it also amplifies the activity which is required for mathematical reasoning. So one helps the other. Similarly, we have these are some areas. This is again an American study where they have looked at what happens, which areas of the brain light up when you see art.
Visual art.
Visual art. Here what they did was they got people to lie in the scanner and they were shown pieces of art, painting which they liked. If you can see the red areas and the yellow areas, so many areas of the brain light up, and these are also the critical areas which are responsible for logic, for reasoning, for value judgment, for learning about various things, for memory, for reward, for pleasure. So these are the great the pathways of the brain which communicate to each other. These are the areas where the mind lies, where your willpower lies. Now, can you imagine having something which has the power to give all these areas such a wonderful exercise?
I know, because we think that we are really focusing just on the subjects, and we think that we are getting this knowledge. We forget that how the overall development, the holistic development we are talking of is lying somewhere else. We are just bothered about one part, but look how beautifully is shown that when you are doing art activities or you are involved in those art activities, how all these parts of the mind, the brain, are being worked with.
Right. In fact, let me show you something else. This is work that we have done. We've been working on children, as I told you, who are at high risk of developing problems, and that is related to their difficulty in allocating attention, high impulsivity, etc. And what we are able to show is that these children have smaller areas in the brain compared to other children. And these are the areas which are responsible, like I said. These are the brakes of the brain, these are the gears of the brain, and this is the amygdala, which gives you value. This is the engine of the brain. These are much smaller. They act much less than in children who don't have these problems. when you look at pictures of
brain of a normal child.
Yeah, when you look at pictures of the pathways which connect them, you find that the pathways also are very leaky. Information does not flow very well between these areas. So the crosstalk between these areas is also less. What is also being found side by side, although it is early days, we really don't have that kind of major evidence because there has been too little research on art and thing.
Yeah.
But what we do find is that these difficulties, these deficits come down, get better with stimulation, part of which is providing stimulation with art. I talked about sculpture.
Yeah.
Sculpture is one very good way of actually increasing the flow in these pathways.
This kind of children, if they are given 3D materials like clay and material for sculpture, they will develop faster.
Well, there is early evidence that it seems to make it more possible for them to sit and focus a little better.
Minimum, if not much.
To be able to sustain interest in activities longer.
And this development is a permanent development of the brain?
Yes. Yes, because what happens is the delay in development in the brain at this level happens because there is delay in the insulation of the wiring in the brain. Now, if you are able to increase the rate of insulation of the wiring in the brain, then you have a much more mature brain.
Very true. Dr. Thanks a lot, but I would request you to just summarize it again for the sake of viewers. When I say simple question, how arts help in brain development, and that is why we have arts in schools.
Right.
But I want to sort of recapitulation of the whole, like if you can say in short, how arts help in mental development.
See, one of the things is that the arts develop the brain systems which normally take months or years to develop.
Okay.
They do it faster, they do it better, and they do it with less pain. Now, the second thing is that the benefits of practicing any art form does not appear just as proficiency or skill in that art form.
Every time is new.
It gets sprinkled across the entire spectrum of your abilities. And it also results in better emotional balance. So, even though you are acting in one particular area, all other areas of the brain seem to get exercised. As far as what art form does what, we still do not have enough research to talk about that, but there has been some research which has been done in the area of music, in the area of exposing children to visuals, and in the area of theatre education, as well as in
dance.
Plastic arts, and of course there's dance. There is not enough evidence to suggest that one is better than the other, and I don't think there will be any evidence to, and we shouldn't even get into that area. What I think the evidence that we have is definitely involving children in or involving arts education in children's educational program makes better children.
Thank you very much, and I think our viewers, our parents, our teachers today got a very fair idea of arts in education. Dr. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
From NCERT, we really thank you a lot. We thank NIMHANS, and thank you very much. We will keep on talking, but on another
Thank you for providing
topic.
me a platform.